Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today I'm going to rank the discography of progressive rock and metal band Coheed and Cambria. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, another legendary band to tackle today, and I'm interested to see who watches this because even though there is some metal crossover here, they're not distinctly what I would call a metal band. That said, we gotta talk about Coheed, man. Like, the riffs alone, like, we'll just get right into it. So we're gonna start from the beginning with Second Stage Turbine Blade. I freaking love this album, but I gotta say, it took me a while to get into these guys. Originally, I did not like them at all. I was big into metalcore when I was exposed to them. I think I went into it expecting it to be like a metalcore band because I saw them being shared in kind of the same circles. And I heard his vocals and was just like, nah, nah, man. Like, what is this? I don't like this. But what helped me kind of shift and accept it and have it click for me was I had a friend who was big into Coheed. And he's like, dude, you're listening to these guys wrong. You got to understand. It's basically just Rush, like sci-fi modern day Rush. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, he's absolutely right. They do concept albums on kind of geeky topics because they're like doing comic book stories, basically. They've got a high-pitched vocalist and they do super proggy songwriting and instrumentation. That could be a description of Rush. Absolutely. So let's get into it with 2002's Second Stage Turbine Blade. And nowadays, I love this album. Just an amazing intro. I love this like post-metal-y, drifty, long build-up they've got. It's just really stunning and atmospheric. Sets the stage for everything to come. And then these super proggy riffs. And again, I know some of you, if you're not as familiar, you're listening to these vocals right now and are like, what the fudge, man? Like, but once it clicks, I'm telling you, you just get wrapped up in it, man. Like, so infectious. I sing along. Like, it's so hard for me to not sing along to this song right now. And I got to see them perform this live a couple times. Devil in Jersey City. Nice little, just kind of rock-oriented song on this one. This is a much more kind of straightforward album, but every song is great. Super anthemic. A lot of great sing and scream-along moments. This does have some kind of almost metalcore-like moments on it, both in the production, the heaviness, and there's a couple screams, too, which you'll hear less and less of moving forward. Oh, man, I could just spend a whole video talking about this. Everything Evil's great has this really ominous, slow build-up with these really just passionate, genuine-sounding vocals, and it explodes into Delirium Trigger. Also, every song on here is fantastic. So good. Earshot Kid Disaster is fun. There's a scream. See, we got a few screams on here, but not much. Mostly singing. Never Ender 2, classic. So many cool riffs. Their guitar work is just beyond reproach. Like, no matter what, you can say what you want to about the vocals and Claudio in that respect, but holy cow, man, the guitars and the dual guitar work. In another direction. Sorry. I'll try not to do that too much, but it won't be the last time, I guarantee you. S tier for me, honestly. Like, it would be easy to put this one lower because the songwriting's not as complex, but it's just so dang consistent, and I just love every song. Love every song, still enjoy it just as much as I did back in the day. But let's continue forward here and not spend too much time on any one album with In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3. And here is where you hear Coheed really kind of coming into their sound overall. Much proggier album. And another one really consistent. This is a classic. This was the first Coheed riff I learned how to play, and it's such a fun song to play. One of the earlier kind of more proggy songs I've learned how to play too. It's not particularly difficult, but I love this little part. I wonder if I can still remember it. Still got it. But yeah, anyways, back to what I was saying. Couldn't help myself. This song has so many cool movements. So good. Again, great song to play. If you're looking to get into Coheed and you want a song to start with, that's probably a good place to go. But Cuts Marked in the Marks of Men. It's really cool, kind of darker atmosphere sounding song too. Three Evils too. Despite its name, starts off with this really kind of upbeat, almost danceable part. But man, seeing them play these songs live is just so much fun. You want something heavier, darker, The Crowing. Another great track to start with, I would say. Another fun riff to learn. You burgeoning guitar players out there. Blood Red Summer took a while to kick in. This is definitely not somewhere I would start because it's super saccharine pop, basically. But man, once it gets its fingernails into you, you can't help it. And I know it might be funny for some of you who don't know me as well or haven't watched me as long to see me rock out to some of these songs when I normally cover like death metal and black metal and stuff, and even the more like heavy deathcore stuff. But man, I will always have a special place in my heart for Coheed. Favor in the House Atlantic, another fantastic track. But I'm dragging this thing out. Oh man, I want to sing along. But no, we gotta move on. We gotta move on. So, all of that to say, also S tier, right off the bat. First two albums among my favorites to listen to. But let's continue on so that we're not here all day long with the classic Good Apollo I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 1. Many of you will probably be, even if you're not fans, you're probably familiar with a lot of these tracks from hearing them in various places, including iterations of like Rock Band. Another fun track to play both in the game and also in real life too. Like great riff to learn. This is where they get really epic. Like they built up their sound. This is almost like a symphonic album, and definitely this track, you got the strings. 10 Speed 2 was another decently big track. You can hear the shift in production here. It's a lot bigger, a lot more modernized and touched up. Louder too, for better or worse. But yeah, there's other great songs on here too. Crossing the Frame is fun. Got lots of great moments on it. Apollo 1, The Writing Writer, is also really good. And we've got the return, this reprise that keeps happening. The Suffering was a big single too. They had a music video for this. It had some radio rotation for a good reason too. Love that little key part. Reminds me of Andrew WK. Waiting. The chorus on this, man. Emmanuel in the suffering. I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm really not, though. The only downside to this album is it's huge. Like, this is a big album. It's 15 tracks. It's an hour and 12 minutes long, and it does feel a little bit bloated, if you ask me. And I'd even use the term overrated. A lot of people would probably list this as the best album just because it got so big, and it was their big, like, blow-up album. But for that reason, I think it's kind of overrated because I think they have albums that are more consistent. Because, again, there's a lot of, like, tracks I would consider to be filler-ish. There's nothing bad on here, but there's some repetition, and yeah, they could have tightened this thing up. So for me, still a great album, no question there. But just gonna put it at A tier. God forbid, A tier. So bad. No, still really good. Moving on to the end of this particular storyline, if you are following the concept. Good Apollo I'm Burning Star 4 Volume 2, No World for Tomorrow, which most people will just call No World for Tomorrow. Title track on here, excellent. This is like almost like a more metal-y album. I would feel more comfortable calling this like a progressive metal album. Yeah, it's almost like Dream Theater-y. The production I have a mixed opinion of. This one gets like so kind of loudness wars almost, I feel like, that it bothers me a little bit. And the vocal production is a little too poppy for my taste, so it drags it down just slightly, but it's amazing songs. Still a lot of amazing songs on here. I'd argue today now it's more consistent, too, than maybe Burning Star 1. But The Hound is great. Feathers, fun, more upbeat track, more positive sounding. They're more kind of like emo-y stuff. The chorus on this is so saccharine sweet. It's like sugary. Find your feather on a back. The Running Free had some decent rotation too. Nice cool chuggy riff at the beginning. And then it builds up into this whole dealy. Gravemakers and Gunslingers, if you want a nice heavy, this is a progressive metal track here, right, for sure. Great solos on it too. By the way, watch them live to see all the soloing too. Like, they are such talented players. But another one, like, a little bit inconsistent. It starts off really strong, and then the second half is a little bit weaker. There are some songs on here, again, that I would kind of call filler. But overall, still one of their best albums. The first four, you really can't top them. You really can't top them, and that's how I would rank those. That was 2007. Moving on from there, we got The Year of the Black Rainbow. This was 2010. I really enjoy this album. Another really solid album from them. Kind of got overlooked a little bit, I feel like. But this opening track, The Broken, good, powerful, catchy stuff. Guns of Summer is also really good. I like that little tapping riff there with the electronics overlaced through it. Here We Are Juggernaut was kind of the single, if I recall. Another big, powerful track with big anthemic vocals. Far, Deeper Cut, I really enjoy. One of their slower, sappier songs. But man, I can't tell you how many times I've driven home from somewhere singing along to this track. Hey! Whenever I think of, like, if somebody asked me to sum up Claudio's vocals in one, like, little thing, it's always that. Hey! That's Claudio. That's Claudio right there. That's all you need to know about him. That's like his thing. Shattered Symphony, really great track too. This like neoclassical riff really gets me. Love that. World of Lines, also really good. And then, yeah, the second half, not as many of my favorites, but still lots of good stuff. Made Out of Nothing is really solid too, and most of these other ones. In some ways, I'd say that this album's probably a little bit more consistent than the first four, and part of me kind of wants to put it at A tier. Part of me wants to shuffle these things around a little bit, actually. See, this will be fun, because I haven't fully thought through. I thought I had it the way I wanted it, but I'm going to play around with it a little bit. I don't know, I'm going to have to keep tooling with that, but this recording is starting to go on long already, so I got to pick up the pace a little bit and move forward. 2012, we had the Afterman, Ascension, and this is like a two-parter formed together with the Afterman Descension in 2013, just 1 year after another. This series has its moments. The first half, I will say, is definitely better than the second half. Key Entity Extraction 1 is pretty cool. But the songwriting, I just don't find as engaging as the previous albums. I like the Afterman too, for again, one of their kind of lighter, softer tracks. It's really chill. Good background music too. Almost seems like soundtrack music for like a cartoon or something. I don't know. Key Entity Extraction 3 is pretty good too. So it has its moments. Every now and then I go back and listen to these all the way through, but they've yet to really like crack through the higher ratings. And honestly, I'm just going to do these two together. Second half is just, to me, like pretty bad. It's not enjoyable. The only track I kind of like is the Hard Sell, which is kind of cool. But it still doesn't, like, even the best, when the best track on your album doesn't stack up to your best material, and then the rest is just kind of whatever. I just don't get into it. I know some people really like this stuff, and I probably need to, keep giving it chances like I have been. Like that bass groove there. That's fun. But yeah, it's kind of, I find these albums to be all over the place, very inconsistent, and again, not a single, like, favorite Coheed song on either of those. So I kind of, like, for me, I put them at D. If I'm being objective in just terms of, like, how would I rate them if I was reviewing them? I'd probably put them more like C objectively. I could probably see myself putting this one at C and Descension at D. And then there's The Color Before the Sun in 2015, which is their only like non-concept album, which doesn't bother me. I found it refreshing. I was like, oh, that'll be kind of cool. We just get a set of cool songs and it'll be a good time. I really liked the lead single, You Got Spirit Kid. Just a fun, kind of poppy, upbeat. I think it was a summer song too, or at least it feels like one. Yeah, just like kind of a poppy, like almost like a pop punk song in a way, which I'm into. Like, I like that stuff too. I listen to a little bit of everything. But the rest of the album is pretty weak. It's definitely my least favorite, probably even more so than Descension. But I'd probably put it around the same tier. It's not like terrible. I don't want to put it all the way at the bottom. But that finally brings us to the end here with the Unheavenly Creatures in 2018. I was not sure what to expect from this album, given that the last 3 albums I did not particularly enjoy. So my hopes were kind of low for this. But I started hearing the singles, and I got to tell you, I was impressed. I really liked what I was hearing. And so... And that's given that this is even longer than Burning Star 4. This is an hour and 20 minutes long, 15 tracks. And man, if it isn't way more consistent than that album. Like when I'm really thinking about it, there's far less filler. Even the tracks that aren't my favorites, I still enjoy a lot. Like these gang vocals with the hey, hey. Unheavenly Creatures, great single. Love this little synth intro. And then it builds into some really great riffs. Return to Concepts, too, as you can probably tell from the album cover. I know some people made fun of the album cover that looks like bad, like Final Fantasy art or something, but I feel like it fits. Toys, another great single that has a music video. Fun riffs. This feels like it goes all the way back to the day. Like, this feels like it could have been a song on, like, the first 2 albums. Quite honestly. And it's just a good time. True Ugly is really good. Kind of darker sounding track. And look, a little bit of screaming. A little bit of kind of screaming there. Some heavier moments on here. The Pavilion, A Long Way Back. That's almost like a U2 riff, but luckily they're way better than U2. I'm not a particular U2 fan. They have their moments, but that does remind me very much of a U2 riff. But the song is really good. It builds into another, like, this feels like something that could have been on the second album to me. The Gutter is really solid too. Another cool, lots of like cool like keys and synth and like ambience. But then still great riffs too. Some of the best songwriting they've ever done. Really tight stuff. I'd love to see this live. I haven't had a chance yet. Old Flames also good for a softer track. We got this nice piano intro. And it's a pretty emotional record too. Like sometimes concept albums sort of alienate me a little bit too, because it's like, oh, it's like this sci-fi epic. Like I can't really relate to that, but the relational aspect of it that you hear between the like lead characters, you kind of get sucked into it, and I feel it. I get little goosebumps and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna play around with this a little bit at the very end here. I'm gonna put this at A tier at least. Like honestly, given a little bit more time, because it hasn't had as much time to kind of simmer and sink its flavor in, so to speak, over time as these other ones. But yeah, I would put that above those two. It's hard for me to put... Maybe I should do that. That feels man, it's tough. It's tough, because these 3 albums I like... There's pros and cons to each of them, and they kind of counter each other. Like, this has more status and more of my favorite songs. This one's more consistent. This one is kind of slightly more consistent than this one. Also has some really great songs. This one has less, like, iconic songs. So, I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough for me to rank those particular. But I still maintain these top 2, and I maintain that this latest one should at least be A tier, if not S tier. Could potentially see it going up there. I do think it's better than Burning Star 4, 1, or 2. And yeah, it's man, I feel like I should end this with some sort of finality, but it's it's really, really difficult for me to do that. But I think looking at this, it just, if on a visceral level, this, what I'm looking at right now, the screen you're seeing right now, kind of makes the most sense to me. But let me know down in the comments, because I've been going on way too long here. I'm going to have to edit this thing down a little bit. But let me know, what are your Coheed rankings? What's your favorite Coheed album? What's your least favorite Coheed album? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? If you're not a fan, are you going to go from this and check this more out? Because maybe something you heard here intrigued you. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.